inspired me to also serve. And so despite his best efforts to, put me toward a softer path, I guess you'd say, I just wanted to follow that example. And I think my dad, during a career day, actually one time in high school, I think I was a freshman or a sophomore, my dad came to speak at career day. And he has a framed black and white photo of a San Francisco police officer. It was taken during I think it was in the 70s or 80s. It's an older photograph for me. And the police officer it's a candid photo. So it's in the midst of an action. There's a body in the background. It's obviously someone who's deceased. The homicide had just taken place. The police officer is in the midst of running toward where the assailant had run to. And he has his gun, his old, the revolver that they were using at that time. He has his gun drawn, and he is, he's gonna go chase that person down. In spite of the danger, and that still to this day inspires me. And that was kind of like, look, if there's going to be a need for people to serve in the military, then I know I can do it. I just felt that at a young age. I felt that I had that in me to do it. I didn't realize how much it would get tested when I thought I had. But that was sort of it was like my compromise position of like, fine, if I can't drop out of college and enlist, then I'll just become an officer.
Right.
And there's a reason for everything. I'm glad that I did.
Yeah. When you enlisted, what was going on in the world as it related to our military? Were we already present in Afghanistan, or what was going on that I'm certain was a part of your process when you decided to join?
Yeah, it's interesting. Not a whole lot was going on. This was I signed up for officer candidate school at the tail end of President Clinton's administration. I think there was the incident with the USS Cole at that time in the Gulf, but we weren't at a war footing yet in Afghanistan. 9/11 had not happened. In fact, the first summer that I went to officer candidate school, when I got back from OCS, which is in Quantico, Virginia, 9/11 did happen. I called my recruiting officer. I said, okay, I'm going to enlist because I don't want to miss what's going to happen. And he called me an idiot and said that we're going to be there for a while. And I didn't believe him, but he proved correct. So he said, be patient, finish school, get commissioned, you'll get your chance. And then when I graduated, I went back to officer candidate school for the second required increment. It was a 6-week training each summer, so 12 weeks total. And then I graduated Davis in 2003, got commissioned that June. And so we had already invaded Iraq in order to liberate the Iraqi people from Saddam Hussein. And I thought, okay, well, I totally missed my window to do anything, quote unquote, exciting in the Marine Corps, but I ended up not being correct. So when I graduated college, it was for the purpose of, I needed a bachelor's degree in order to have a commission as an officer. And so that was my goal. And then as soon as I got into the Marine Corps, I knew from the start, signing up for OCS, what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an infantry officer. I wanted to lead men in the infantry. And I didn't realize how daunting a task that was until, the first time I actually met my platoon, the men that I was going to take into combat, and had the absolute intimidation to the point where I had never felt spiritually tested like that. And just stepping in front of a group of about 40 some odd young men, a month and a half out from what we were going to go do in Ramadi, Iraq, and just thinking like, I'm responsible for all of these souls, like what did I bite off, and am I gonna be able to chew through this? And thankfully I did. But it was funny, looking at and in keeping with the theme of your your podcast, the answer is yes. I had an opportunity when I was finishing up infantry officer course. So this is after I was commissioned, after the basic school, which is a 6-month program in Quantico. This is my occupational specialty school. So a lot of times when you hear folks say, what's your MOS, that your military occupational specialty is what they mean.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to be an infantry officer. So to be an infantry officer, you have to graduate from infantry officer course. It's like it's a finishing school of sorts for young second lieutenants before they put you in charge of a rifle platoon. And I was all set to go to a battalion called 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, which is out of Camp Pendleton in 1st Marine Division. But they were, at that time in 2004, they were scheduled to do a Pacific float called the Expeditionary Unit. So they weren't set to go to any of the combat theaters, either Iraq or Afghanistan.
Uh-huh.
And there was a battalion in Ramadi, Iraq at that time, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines. Nickname is the Bastards. And they got hit really hard in a springtime offensive in Ramadi, and they lost a number of platoon commanders. 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, which is in the same 5th Marine Regiment, sent replacement officers to 2-4 in Ramadi. And so now 2-5 had a need for platoon commanders. And so they pulled my instructors at the time in Quantico, they pulled us 1st Battalion, 1st Marine guys aside, and they were like, look, out of the 5 of you, we need 3 to go to 2-5. 2-5's going to combat, and they need officers. And I didn't even blink. I just put my hand up and said, I'll go.
So let's be clear on this, Phil. They need you because they've lost people that are in your position that you're going to, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's and I appreciate where this story's going, but I want to hear about emotions for a second because when you first signed up on campus, there was an emotion there, I'm sure. B, talking to your parents about it, there's an emotion there with your parents. And then as you're going to school for the level of service you were going to eventually become, you're going through the emotional process there. What were some of those ups and downs? What was going through your mind in the day in and day out of getting your education to fill this role? Because those are the thoughts that I think, I talk a lot about the in-between of the start and finish of a career choice, right? And these emotions that you're going through is that in-between part. What gave you the strength to continue on, to be passionate about what you're eventually going to achieve through this education, becoming this lead officer, and having the strength and personal prowess to tell your parents and stand against them? Tell us a little bit about some of the emotions you went through over those years.
Yeah, I think initially, what got me to the table to sign up, all those years ago, it was really just like idealism. I mean, I really had this idea, and I still do. It's tempered now from experience, but I just had this belief of like, look, this is you have it within you to do the right thing. This is the right thing to do. Go do it. And that got me there. Then what got me through it, because look, I don't make any, I don't try to fool anybody. When I first got to officer candidate school in Virginia, I thought I had made a horrible mistake because, you get there and it's not just idealism, right? Yeah. I mean, they're sleep depriving you. You're getting run, all day long. They take away all your personal space, all your personal freedom. And it's this, you're going through this crucible. And I was like, did I make the right decision? Is this really what I'm supposed to do? And, the formative change that happened I still remember it. We're lined up for chow at the John Bobo Chow Hall. And John Bobo was a second lieutenant in Vietnam who was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor posthumously for his actions in combat. So posthumous, for those who don't know the term, he died in Vietnam, but he died doing something that earned him the nation's highest award for heroism and bravery. And I read his medal citation. It was on the inside anteroom to the chow hall. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's why I'm doing this. And it just so happened that same day, our drill instructor pulled us aside because some guys were talking in formation, and he said in a really kind of eerily calm way, he pointed our attention across the parade deck, and there were some enlisted Marines that were walking there, and he said, he goes, that's someone's child. Some parent one day is going to put their child's, life in your hands. And if you can't keep your mouth shut in formation and follow simple rules and be disciplined, how on earth are you going to take that child into harm's way and bring them back alive? Like, what are you thinking? And then he said, this is not about you. And it was like, boy, that did it for me. It clicked.
Wow.
Like that was the emotional moment where it was like, makes sense. It's not about me. Doesn't matter how I feel about it. Doesn't matter how tired I am. Doesn't matter how hungry I am. Doesn't matter how much pain I'm in. It's not about me. It's about the Marines that I'm going to one day take charge of and, go do that, which is really a solemn, honor. Like, all right, I'm going to take someone else's child into some really dangerous areas, and I have to be prepared to do everything, up to and including what guys like John Bobo and others did, where they gave themselves completely.
Right.
And so that's what got me through all the hard times in training. Whether it was, the sort of the breaking in period of officer candidate school to, an infantry officer course, being woken up out of your fighting hole at 3 a.m. with tear gas grenades going off and being told to get into your call them a MOP suit, but it's basically those nuclear, biological, chemical suits, and then getting forced marched till the sun comes up and falling asleep trying to walk, like getting pushed to the point where you think you're exhausted and then getting pushed further, that no matter what, I always had that with me where it was like, this ain't about me. So it's fine. We'll keep going. And that proved to apply, just the same in combat. When we got to Ramadi, to replace 2-4 and, the kind of fighting that we saw is very much, and like that, there are other platoon commanders that I went to officer candidate school with that didn't come home. There were officers who I looked up to who didn't come home. And, the battalion took casualties. My Marines lost a lot of their friends. Luckily, none of my Marines were killed. We certainly got away with some close ones. But during that whole time, it was very much, this is not about me. So really learning to, subsume myself, to my Marines and what we were there to do. That was, and not all, it wasn't easy all the time. A lot of times it was scary. I mean, I think the most scared I ever was the night before getting on our plane flight to go to combat for the first time, because I didn't think I was going to be able to actually pull this off. I thought I was going to, make a decision that would be a mistake and that would get, half my platoon wiped out or something, and I'd have to, live with being what I would consider to be a failure at that time, having not experienced what it's like. But But again, I always had that reminder of my drone